All right, I'll call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. and welcome everybody. For the audience here tonight, the City of Glendora utilizes a hybrid meeting format to allow for participation both in person and virtually. In consideration of others and the business conducted tonight, please silence your phones and electronic devices and refrain from speaking unless recognized. Again, this is a public meeting for the community of Glendora. We appreciate and respect your participation here this evening. Gonna request roll call.
Thank you. So at this time, I would like to conduct an oral roll call and request that each commissioner respond with present when their name is called. Commissioner Crimmins,
Present.
Commissioner Davis is absent, Commissioner Koss,
Present.
Vice Chair Faber,
Present.
and Chair Norwood is absent. So let the record show 3 members are present.
You did that. So we're gonna do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Does anyone wish to reorder or add to the agenda? Seeing none, gonna move on. Public comment. This opens public comment period. I invite members of the public to address the legislative body. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes, speaking once on both on and off agenda items. If you are in attendance, please fill out a speaker card and submit it to the recording admin before the close of the public comment period. Once recognized, speakers should advance to the podium, state your name and the subject matter you wish to discuss. If you are participating via Zoom, select the raise hand icon in Zoom before the close the public comment period. Once recognized, you will be unmuted, state your name and subject matter you wish to discuss. At this time, invite speakers to speak on public comment. Seeing none.
Does
If
anybody
there's
wish
any
to-
on Zoom.
Sorry,
yeah.
do we have anybody who would like to speak during public comment? We can have you fill out a card? No? Okay. Anybody on Zoom, if you would like to speak, if you can please click the raise hand icon. We have none.
All right, at this time, I'll close public comment period. I'm gonna ask at this time if there's any commissioner statements or reports. See none. Gonna ask if the director or attorney statements.
No report from the director tonight.
All right. So at this time, we're just gonna move into the public hearings. So, yeah, a resolution of the Planning Commission adopting a conditional use permit to allow the limited continuance of non-conforming use at 718 East Route 66, PLN 23-0037. At this time, I'm gonna invite Assistant Planner Aaron Sins.
First, she'll declare the public hearing open.
Declare, the public hearing open.
Perfect, thank you.
At this time, I want to invite the Assistant Planner, Aaron Sands, to report. I guess that's it.
Good evening, Vice Chair Faber and members of the Planning Commission. Tonight, for your consideration is a conditional use permit for the limited continuance of a non-conforming use located at 718 East Route 66. The site was developed in 1948 and various commercial businesses occupied the building since it was built, but has been vacant for some time now. Surrounding the property include other existing examples of non-conforming uses, which include an auto dealership, self-storage, and a glass and mirror shop. The site has a general plan land use designation of Route 66 Corridor Specific Plan and is zoned Route 66 CRR, which is the central Route 66 residential subdistrict of the Route 66 Corridor Specific Plan. And the existing commercial development is non-conforming per the current residential zoning. The applicant is proposing to reoccupy and utilize the existing building for professional office business uses. The proposed CUP will allow the limited continuance of the non-conforming use in the zoning district. The site plan includes off-street parking improvements as required by the conditions of approval included in the upcoming slides. The floor plan here shows that there are no changes proposed for the building. And here you will see some site photos of the exterior of the building with adjacent auto dealership to the east and the glass shop to the west. And this is another angle looking at the glass and window shop and the rear of the property, which is currently vacant. Along with that, the site has also been identified by the City of Glendora's General Plan 6 Housing Element Site Inventory as land suitable and available for residential development to meet the locality's regional housing needs by income level. The site is identified within the Housing Element Inventory as site number 5, which includes a total of 5 parcels. This CUP would not be in conflict as the CUP conditions are drafted to allow the site to continue using the existing commercial office building for the condition limited use as the property eventually transitions to future residential development. This request is a first for the City of Glendora, and as such, conditions of approval are in place to allow the existing commercial office building to be used for limited operational use for an interim period while promoting future multifamily development of the property. Its justification is primarily based on the reality that the site is so small and narrow that development by itself as a residential will be challenging, and an allowance to delay in getting a larger consolidated site or better planned smaller site is gathered. So as part of the conditions of approval, the CUP shall expire on February 6, 2027, unless the Community Development Director grants an extension of time. The Director may grant 2 3-year extensions, as a request for a time extension shall be submitted in writing by the applicant no later than 60 days before the expiration date. And the Director approval, if granted, shall be documented in writing. The operations of the business and uses will be limited to office professional or similar uses as determined by the Director. Along with that, there are also included conditions of approval regarding that the property shall be leased on a month-to-month basis, that the CUP be disclosed if transferred or sold, and outdoor storage of any kind, but not limited to storage containers, recreational vehicles, construction equipment, and trailers is prohibited. So prior to occupancy of the building, the CUP proposes minor off-street parking improvements such as parking lot restriping to be compliant with Americans with Disability Act's requirements. And the applicant must also obtain permits for the restriping along with building permits for the existing monument sign, and that will be limited to face change outs only. And on January 25th, 2024, notices were mailed out to all property owners within 500 feet, and the notice was also published in the San Gabriel Valley Examiner. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a CEQA notice of exemption and a resolution for approval of the conditional use permit to allow the limited continuance of a non-conforming use. City staff is available for any questions, and the applicant is also here and may want to provide a brief statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. At this time, I'd like to invite the applicant Amir Tadros to present.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Amir. I am the applicant for the subject property. I really just wanted to come up here and say a very special thank you to Mark Carnahan, who I've been working with for the last few months. and he has been instrumental in this whole process. He's creative, he's thoughtful, he puts a lot of energy and time and effort into this. So Mark, thank you very much. I also wanted to say thank you to Aaron, who not only just did a great presentation on this property, but I've also been working with him these last few months, and he has been very communicative, letting me know of all the stuff that's happening in the background. This just doesn't surface on the agenda today, so there's quite a bit of stuff that I learned from Aaron. So Aaron, thank you very much for your hard work on all of this. Just like Aaron just covered, I won't bore you with all the long details of this property, but it was built in the late 40s, and for the last 70 plus years, almost 80 years, it's been used as a commercial operation. More recently, the city has asked me to convert it to residential. I want to convert it to residential. It is my intent to convert it to residential. But given the very narrow property dimensions and the very unique aspect of this property, it won't happen overnight. There is a lot of obstacles that need to be addressed, and not to bore you with all the obstacles and the long details of, planning and getting a 7 and 9 unit development project underway. But some of the key ones are, for example, the fire department, the fire prevention. They are asking for a hammerhead turnaround. So the hammerhead turnaround for their engines to, make a U-turn on the property has to be a minimum of 70 feet wide. This property from east to west in its entire width is 45 feet wide. So that's one obstacle. Another obstacle is the setbacks from the property. The development guidelines say that you have to have 10-foot setbacks on the sides. So if I have, 45 feet and then you take 10 feet from here and 10 feet from here, you're left with 25 feet. And it's pretty difficult to build, 7 to 9 units plus the garage plus all this. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I am saying that, there are some challenges, and these challenges will not be solved overnight. And I've been very fortunate, like I said earlier, to work with Mark and Aaron to come up with a plan that hopefully we can kind of get this building used for the same thing that it's been used for almost 80 years, while I am trying to solve these obstacles that, exist. So again, thank you for your time. Thank you, Mark and Aaron, for all your hard work. And I'm here to answer any questions you guys have.
Thank you, Amir. I'd like to invite members of the public to give testimony. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes, speaking only on the agenda item. If you are in attendance, please fill out a speaker card and submit it to the recording admin before the close of the public comment period. Once recognized, speakers should advance to the podium, state your name and the subject matter you wish to discuss. If you are participating via Zoom, select the raised hand icon and Zoom before the close of public comment period. Once recognized, you will be unmuted, state your name and subject matter you wish to discuss. At this time, are there any people who would like to speak, any members of the public who would like to speak on this?
Looks like nobody in the audience. Anybody on Zoom, if you would like to speak, if you can please click the hand icon. We have none.
So at this time, I'm going to invite Amir again to provide any closing remarks if desired. You have 5 minutes. Okay. At this, we will start our discussion and deliberations from the commission. Commissioner Koss.
Yeah, I just, I understand the challenges that would be involved in turning this into residential. So I definitely understand that. My suggestion would be while you're using this is to kind of reach out to adjacent, you've probably already done some of that, reaching out to adjacent property owners, possibly combining lots, those types of things. But I understand that the conversion to residential will be in the distant future probably. So I'm fine with that. I am excited to see that you're going to be, I guess, repaving the parking lot and restriping, correct? Was that part of the plan? Okay, because I think that will do a lot to, improve the look of the front. But otherwise, I'm all for having a building that's vacant be used. So
We might want to clarify with the applicant. I'm not sure if he's going to be repaving. He might just be restriping.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's fine.
Commissioner Crimmins.
I guess
and it's kind of a vague one, but how do you get around other than consolidating lots the 70-foot hammerhead? Or how do you make that work?
I think that's what needs time. Either laws change or he'll have to work with adjacent property owners to maybe get an easement so he can have the hammerhead creep fund onto their property for the that kind of sort of thing. Or he gets lucky and the other property becomes available and we can make a bigger, better project.
Thank you.
Just give my comments. Okay. Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Cost. I'm happy to see something happening with the property and getting used. I have two just questions that are really more just how it works. So this is the first of 2 3-year extensions possibly?
This would be the approval, and then it allows 2 extensions.
So in theory, it could be up 2033 could still stay in this conditional use permit. Okay,
Correct. It could go to 2033.
perfect. And then the other question is just from the other stuff we've done, the setback, is it now 3 feet in this instance like it is on some of the other things we've talked about? I mean, I still don't think you could do it because you have to have a road down the middle of it, but I'm just.
I can't recall exactly
is.
what the setback
Yeah,
is. in the
so
CRR.
for that CRR zoning sub-district, the side setbacks are 10 feet and also 10 feet at the rear.
So that's all I have. Thank you. I'm gonna keep going. So I guess we're gonna conduct an oral, or sorry. I'm gonna close public hearing.
Actually, before you close the public hearing, if you could maybe ask the applicant if they've read, understood, and agree with the conditions of approval.
Yes, Amir, have you read and understood
Sorry, can
and
you come up to the
agree?
mic real quick?
Come back up to the podium.
Sorry, please come back up to the podium. Just to confirm that you have, Amir, you have read the conditions of approval and agree with them.
Yeah, I have read them, and I do agree with them. I do want to say though, looking at some of the conditions, if this is an opportunity to discuss maybe just a few small edits that would make all of our lives easier so that I don't have to come back up here and ask for maybe an exception where we can give. So if we can maybe go back to the conditions and is this possible for me to do this, or I don't want to go again?
The commission can review and amend conditions of approval prior to voting on the item.
Oh, yeah, just, sure. So, I have it's pretty simple, I think. Item number 10 on the operations, which is, the termination, so I'll just read it. Any lease signed for the subject property shall be on a month-to-month basis, and any such lease shall include a provision allowing the applicant to terminate the lease without cause by providing a 30-day notice to terminate. My hesitation with this one is I don't know how many interested commercial operators I'm going to find that will be willing to move themselves, their employees, their entire operation, and do advertisement. And at a click of a signature or a click of a button, I just say, you got to be out in 30 days. I think even with the residential leases, even if I am on a 30-day or 30-day month-to-month, I still have to give them a 60-day notice. So I'm just hoping that, considering that this is a commercial operation, that maybe we can just coincide the termination of this, maybe with the CUP, or maybe just something that doesn't, shoot me, I just hope I'm not shooting myself in the foot by, agreeing to a 30-day. That's the first item. So
Do you have a 1 month-to-month to 36-month is a big gap, right? You
Yeah.
Have
yeah, it doesn't have to
Like
be
to
30
see-
months.
yeah.
I think in the commercial world, it's typically, 3-5 years, but it doesn't have to be 3 years. Even if we could it's just something that's maybe a little bit more reasonable that I can try to sell to a commercial operator who's going to, be doing advertisement to bring their customers here and all of their employees and all of this. If we can maybe extend it to a year, I think that would be reasonable. Yeah, I mean, I think that would be reasonable if that's an option. Again, I'm not trying to ruffle any feathers. I think you guys have done, such a great job putting all this together, but this is just something that would hopefully
Yep, perfect. Would you want us to discuss each one as he says them, or do you think it's better if he says all his issues first?
I think it's better if you hear his, requests, suggestions, and then if, as part of the motion, that whoever makes the motion to, make the motion, approving or denying, subject to any amendments to the conditions of approval, that so they can be recorded as part of the record.
I think it'd be also nice if I could explain why staff justified its reasoning for it, then you can have your discussion.
Sorry, Vice Chair Faber, I just wanted to note for the record that Chair Norwood is now with us as well, just for the record, if we could note that.
Need me to do it, or you did?
No, you can.
Yep. So noted for the record that Chair Norwood has now joined the meeting. All right, so let's Amir, let's go with your, how many do you have?
It's just one other point.
Let's go with your 2 points, and then we'll let Mark talk. and then-
Sure. The other point is related to, it's kind of combined points number 12 and 13, which they kind of are conjoined. I'll read them. Item number 12 says, the rear southern area of the property shall only be utilized for shall only be utilized as vehicle parking for customers, employees, company vehicles, and shall otherwise remain vacant. And then number 13 says outdoor storage of any kind, including but not limited to storage containers, recreational vehicles, construction equipment, and trailers is prohibited. It's basically limiting me to not use the area in the back. And all I wanted to just add to that was if we can leave that to the discretion of the director, because by a way of business anyways, any applicant or any business that would come forward that would be interested in this property would have to obtain a business license. And by a way of business, the director would have the ability to approve or reject that business based on the use. So if we can just, leave it as is, but just add a comma, up to the discretion of the director, just so that in case it would just kind of prevent a headache. If I don't know what's going to happen for this property, but I'm just trying to leave a little bit of wiggle room that maybe the director can have the discretion to do that. That's all I'm asking. Yeah.
Mark, can you let us know your side of it on that?
Sure. The first one was drafted the way it was, which we can also ask the city attorney if he has any interpretation or suggestions for rewording. Was mainly the main part of it was the justification for month to month was that the part of this effort is to transition it. The main part of this effort is not the use of it as commercial space. It's that we're transitioning this property to residential. We don't want to create obstacles to allow that to happen. And one of the good faith efforts that he's supposed to be demonstrating with the property is the third one is an option that he could sell the property to a separate party who controls an adjacent neighboring property and demonstrates good faith efforts to merge and consolidate the properties with them. So that might be a problem where if he has a 3-year or so or 2-year, lease on that, he can say, I can't, but we can't merge our properties. We can't do a residential project because I have a long-term lease with a commercial operator at this property. We don't want any of that to happen where it's going to conflict it. If there's somewhere in between that can be some sort of negotiated thing in between that, I think we're open, and maybe the attorney has some suggestions too, but the main thing is we don't want to create an obstacle for that.
How about the other?
The other one would be, primarily we have to remember, even though it looks commercial, it's a residential zone. And so having outdoor storage uses and other kind of uses outdoors is not really an appropriate use for a residential zone. 2 is we're trying to phase those out where they are allowed, and wherever they are proposed, they require separate conditional use permits for that to happen. And it's not something we want to entertain here. In this case, it's an existing office. We're allowing it to be office. And if they want to use the back, it's for parking for the office use only. That's where we were kind of getting at. So I don't know if Jeff or Payam wanted to kind of comment more on those 2 points.
No, I was just gonna really say what Mark already said, which was if pretty much any type of use or that involves outdoor storage, if it's a contractor's yard, for example, that would require a conditional use permit itself by the commission. And so again, the idea was to give the owner in buying the property some use, however limited, for a period until and try to encourage its transition the area to residential.
But also thirdly is not intensify its use. I mean, and not bring other uses that shouldn't be there. It's it's residential zone in that case as well. So I'm not trying to make it bring something there that's not in our, we're not going to add a construction yard with lots of giant equipment and stuff. We're not going to allow that because it's not there now. I mean, it's transitioning to residential is essentially what we're saying. So.
Commissioner Cost, do you have any?
Oh, are we discussing
I
that?
guess. I don't know.
Okay. All right, is it, okay. Yeah, I kind of wondered about that too when I read the conditions about the month-to-month basis. I kind of thought as a business owner, would I want to lease on a month-to-month, and that might limit what you can do. The same time, I see that, 2 or 3 years could be problematic in terms of transitioning. I would wonder if we wanted to maybe talk about possibly a 6-month or even a year lease. I mean, I think a year is appropriate. And then obviously, if there's no bites in terms of turning it residential, then, you can obviously renew the lease. So, I mean, I would be okay with, having that longer time period of a year. I tend to agree with about the outdoor storage. If it's not there now and our purpose is to transition this area eventually to residential, it feels like, why would we allow then something additional that isn't part of it now? So I kind of can see the point on number 13, but I definitely think possibly extending the lease period to a year is probably, in my opinion, is appropriate.
Commissioner Crimmins?
Yeah, I understand the issues associated with a month-to-month lease, but also the other side of that coin as well. And I think 6 months, maybe a year would be more where I would lean. Probably more like 6 months. If we're really trying to transition it to residential.
Chair Norwood?
First of all, I would want to thank Vice Chair Faber and the other commissioners for conducting the business on my tardiness, and also my apologies for being late to the particular meeting. I have read the staff report. I've gone through all the documents prior, caught the tail end of the comments by the property owner or the manager. And I too agree that with Commissioner Koss and Commissioner Crimmins that a month might be a little short in terms of attracting other businesses, but at the same time, I understand it's non-conforming and it is zoned for residential, and I know that we would like to transition it towards a residential, but I do see the issues with the month. I wouldn't be willing to go 3 to 5 years, but I might be willing to go a year, 18 months maybe.
I think I kind of hear everything that everyone's saying. I would generally agree to. Month to month is going to be very hard to get a lease for anybody. 1 year seems pretty good that someone would move their stuff in there knowing that, each year I could come in. So it seems like a 12-month would be potentially the right number. There's a lot of things that have to fall into place and to get it approved for the next step anyway, too. So it seems like 12 months is probably a good number, and I'm sure there's some way to work through it as you go through things. I think I see on condition 12 and 13, you don't want a yard coming in there and that's the business, right? So now all of a sudden you're going to have 20 crane trucks back there or whatever it may be. So it seems like that condition could stay, because also if you did get an applicant, as I understand it, is they would then just file a conditional use permit. They'd say they'd want to come in here and we would look at it again and say whether or not we think that's correct to go in that place. Is that right?
Yeah, that is true. I think the question is that, this is the conditional use permit that you're considering tonight is for a limited duration, to extend the non-conforming use. So I think the applicant is asking you to consider how much flexibility he has on the use of the property. I think in staff's view, when we were looking at it, we were, concerned about intensifying the existing use of the property with additional, like you said, whether it be a contractor's yard or that type of, or storage of materials, that type of use, expanding the use outside of the building, outside of just parking. vehicles. So that was the concern. But I think that's something that certainly the commission can consider, but I just advise in the context of, do you think that would become an issue in the future with respect to, terminating the use when the time comes, or do you want to, are you happy with the condition? Do you want to ground it? So I think that's the discussion the commission needs to have on that question.
And if we were to put the verbiage in there where it's up to you as a business license, does that mean it could be anything you'd want it to be, or does that
No.
mean at some point you'd still just bring it
No,
back if they had
I
some-
don't know that that really helps the situation because, if a use is permitted in the area, we're going to allow it anyway. I think we would probably not want to add any uses that required a conditional use permit because that's an additional discretionary permit by the commission. But anything that would be allowed in the zone by right, meaning it's on the use table, it's allowed, the city would allow.
But just to clarify, it's real residential. None of those are really allowed. So that's why we're inserting the words office professional. Those are the allowed uses for that we're adding.
So right. So we were trying to, you're right. Yeah. So we were trying to stay away from the uses that are the more intense uses for the area, like contractor's yard or outdoor storage. Try to limit it, give them some flexibility or some use of the property, but without intensifying the use of the property.
But Mr. Faber, you are correct though. Let's say he did get a construction yard or whatever. Not something we would encourage, but let's say he did do that. This wouldn't allow that, but that doesn't preclude him to say, hey, we were going to go back and we're going to reopen this CUP and you have to reapply for a new CUP and modify it to allow that kind of operation. I'm not sure if there'll be an appetite for it, but that would be the avenue to go towards that.
So there's a pathway.
Yeah.
That maybe we don't have to decide on right now that Amir would
Yeah.
still technically have to lease out.
Correct.
So, okay. Does anybody, any more discussion, questions?
Do we have to then change what we're voting on? How does that work? Or are we just, how do we vote on that? I'm unclear.
Feel free to jump in on this.
Yes, the board would vote and make any motion to amend the resolution in the way they would like.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we amend item number 10 from a month-to-month basis to a one-year basis.
And sorry, before any motion is made,
Draft
the
it. Yeah, sorry.
public
Yep.
hearing should be
Uh,
closed.
Oh,
so
I'm
at
sorry.
this time, I gotta close public hearing and request a motion.
Okay, I just moved. I'll make a motion for item 10 that we change that from a month-to-month lease to a one-year lease. And I assume then at the end of the year, if there's no bites for residential, that could be renewed, just like any lease. I also, but I think that we should leave the other items as they're written.
So just to clarify, it's a motion to amend, to approve, but to amend with number 10.
To amend number 10 to
Okay.
say a one-year lease. Yes, that's my motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so that was from Crimmins. I'll conduct an oral roll call vote and ask if you guys can please vote. Commissioner Crimmins,
Yes.
Commissioner Cost,
Yes,
Vice Chair Faber,
Yes.
Chair Norwood. Motion carries 4-0.
Now I move on to the consent calendar. The items on the consent calendar will be enacted by one motion without individual discussion unless a commissioner has requested it be removed for separate discussion. Does anyone wish to pull or comment on item number 3? Seeing none, I'll request a motion.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Sorry, it was from Crimmins first. Yeah. And then Cost. I'll conduct an oral roll call vote. Commissioner Crimmins,
Yes.
Commissioner Cost,
Yes,
Vice Chair Faber,
Yes.
Chair Norwood.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Right now, we're at the closing comments. I'd invite commissioners and staff to give any closing comments. Commissioner Cost? Commissioner Crimmins?
Nothing for me. Thank you.
Chair Norwood?
I have none. Thank you.
I also have none. Mark? Yeah.
We are going to be having a March 5th meeting. It's looking like, and looking at what we will actually have a full meeting this next round here. It's going to be looks like 2 CUPs for our alcohol uses for 2 different businesses. Our annual general plan and housing element annual update reports. Looks like an environmental justice report. And Piam's going to be doing the your requested new housing law updates. You requested about 2 meetings back.
Thank you. I guess adjourn the meeting at 7:30.